What is up, everyone? It's Brooke here, and today we are here with Jordan. Jordan, do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe where you're from?
Sure, my name is Jordan. I'm 25. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I joined Brooks' program about, I'd say, roughly around 6 months ago. Yeah.
Good stuff,
Uh,
man.
I
Go ahead.
can, a bit more about me actually is I, just to make sure everyone knows, is I actually had no skill sets prior to joining Brooks' program. So I literally used to compete in video games.
No
So
way. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
since I was 17, so used to travel a lot, used to do all that, and then now going into the more business side of things. So yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, why don't you tell the audience what happened this month? So I know you had a pretty crazy, impressive thing happen about a week or two ago now. Why don't you tell us about that? Maybe I guess what happened, and then how that was. Was it something you were working on for a while? Was it unexpected?
Completely unexpected. Literally got an email from a customer or a potential customer just asking about a camera. Um, and things went from just email communication to phone, and then all of a sudden they wanted this certain product, and it was about $33,000 worth. And
Wow.
um, and it's funny because there was such a big progress of getting that certain product out because we hit like payment limits and
Yeah.
other stuff as well, so but we got there in the end, and the customer was super happy, and it's a relationship we built, and super happy about it.
Good stuff, man. That's congratulations.
Thank you.
I just want to touch on the video game point. So I know I used to play video games like just sports ones and stuff, but so many people I know say that business is almost like a video game in a way. And then it almost feels like that to me now. Like you're just kind of like trying to pull different strings and buttons to try and advance to the next level. How do you find that it compares to what you're doing previously? Does it feel like kind of a real life video game where the stakes are more?
A little bit. I think it's more the competition aspect for me because I competed. So I kind of know that you need to make sure you're doing everything in your power to be the best you can be. And 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 with business, I feel like if you want to get to the next level, you kind of get pushed back a little bit down. You make sure you
Yeah.
fix a certain area, and then you go to the next level. And then once you're at this level, something that you need to fix, and then you go to
Yeah.
the next level. And then you have this big base of really good fundamentals or a good foundation, which makes your business and operations really solid. And then that helps, people with the problems that they might have. You can fix them very easily. So
That's a
yeah,
great point. Yeah, you're so right. It's when you're scaling your business, like there's going to be problems here, and then like you said, you solve them, and then you can get to the next level. But then there's going to be new problems that you didn't know existed yet down here, and then you face the new problems, you solve those, and it's just a never-ending game of solving other problems, and the problems never end. Which
yeah,
I think a lot of people, when they get started in business, it's like they want that day where they just get to not do anything, go sit on the beach, sip martinis, and the day is just not going to come. But I think when I got started, that's probably like what I had in my mind. But eventually, I think you learn to love the problems. It's the solving the problems that is actually the cool part, because it oftentimes helps you advance as a person. Because there's not really business problems. Sometimes the problems you're facing are personal weaknesses that force you to become a better person, and then by implication, your business also improves. So very cool point. So you
100%.
mentioned you were from Australia, so you're selling in the U.S., correct? How has that been? I know a lot of people when they get started, they're from outside of the U.S. and they don't know like, do I sell in my home country? Because I know there are people who do this in Australia. So what led to you deciding to go into the U.S. and how was that process? Was it complicated or pretty simple?
So yeah, the reason why I wanted to do US, obviously, just the market's so much bigger and so much more opportunity. So I think that was one of the main reasons. And the process overall was quite simple. I mean, I had everything set up for ads in within 3 weeks, and then I got
Wow.
the GMC ban. So then I was banned for 3 months. Um, But overall, it's been pretty straightforward. I mean, there are some kind of things that you need to learn over time with, I guess, time zones and how you want to manage your sleeping schedule. I used to be a bit of a psycho with staying up and then accepting calls and then, you know, having bad sleep and all that. So as long as you manage that sort of side of the things, then yeah, I think you'll be fine.
So what about what led to you going towards high ticket? Was it did you follow me and just consume the content for a while and then that's what you decided to do, or how did you come to the decision of high ticket specifically? Were you considering other business models?
Uh, I think high ticket really interested me with the amount of, I guess, margin you get per order.
Hmm.
Uh, and obviously, dealing with less customers. I think both those, the amount of money you make from one order and having less customers to deal with, that kind of really intrigued me a lot. Uh, and honestly, I feel like you were the first person I ever saw on social media around dropshipping. So
Hmm.
I just did a bit more research. I don't know if you remember, but we had a call. We
Right at the
had two
beginning,
calls.
I remember there was.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
two
I do
calls.
remember this. You didn't join the first time we spoke.
Yes, so I was a little bit hesitant with everything, and uh, and then the second time I was just like, let's just do it. Let's go all in. So yeah.
Were you working a job when you got started, or was it just the video games that you?
So I was out of video games late 22, and then early 23, I was just learning about, everything with business and everything, and that's when we had our first initial call. So
Yeah.
I wasn't really working at that time. I did get a job as a casino dealer, but then I
Oh,
instantly
cool.
quit 2 days later, just because it wasn't for me. Uh, so then I went into trading, and then I came back to you, and now I'm trading and also doing high ticket, but that's been the general flow
Good
of it.
stuff, man. Cool, cool. So with your niche, can you walk me through like what was that like? Was it a nerve-wracking process when you picked your niche? Did you have like a bunch that you were trying to consider? Was it one that really stuck out to you? And I guess if you could go back and give yourself advice, what advice would you give yourself in that process specifically?
Honestly, for me, I didn't have too many ideas, and I also, for some reason, I didn't want to go the most cliche route, which
Hmm.
also uh, I think people shouldn't mind going the most cliche route because there's so much demand for everything that it doesn't really matter. But for me, it was like only maybe 3 stores. I was struggling to even get 5 store ideas, to be honest. And it was pretty easy after that, after I got some help from Joel. But I remember a student asking me personally in Slack a question about this, literally the same exact question about any advice with a niche, picking a niche. And the thing I said to her was, make sure that the products that you want to sell are a lot very simple.
Yeah,
The niche I went into, very technical. Um, there's different items that you might need for the product to work. You need to learn about the differences between the two of certain things. If you have a treadmill, for example, everyone knows what a treadmill is. But
hmm,
if you have a certain thing that needs to fit on a certain, um, whatever it
I know
may
what you mean.
be, it's just
Yeah.
too technical, and you need to learn everything about every product. And the issues I ran through was I had a lot of customers calling me about these sort of questions, and I didn't have convincing answers to the differences, and I would lose sales. So um, it's just that time, you just cut a lot of that time of learning about your products into great depth. If you
Hmm.
just keep it a little bit more simple and something that you lean into, something that you like a lot, I think that would help a lot.
I agree. Yeah, I think if the best case scenario is if you already know about your product. So I know Ryan, who's done very well. Obviously, he was already an expert in what he sells before. So, but he didn't have any e-commerce experience, but he had been doing what he does for a long time, which I think helped him grow so quickly. The opposite side is I agree with you completely that it can cut the time down a lot, but I think it's almost a moat in a way if you do have this knowledge about a product. But it does take time. Like when I got started with saunas, I didn't know anything about them. Like I didn't even know the difference between a traditional and an infrared sauna. But then like as you learn that, as you learn the differences between like different EMF levels and all these things that on face you might not consider, like you said, the better answers you can give your customers, they do appreciate that. But it does take, I would say, I usually tell people like you can become an expert at any product, but it might take you 2 or 3 months of phone calls where
100%.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's not
100%.
right away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before we started recording here that you've hired a VA recently. So what exactly have you started to outsource? Do you want to outsource, and what are you still personally looking after?
So I've currently got her to help with products
Yeah.
because our next stage is just getting more brands on ads and more brands onto the website because we only started with 3 or 4 brands. So we want to add another 3 brands, and we've just been getting her to help upload. And eventually, I want her to become the person that manages a lot of the operations and have a someone that just strictly is with products. But for her now, I want her to learn about how the products work, and
Yeah.
then I'm going to get her to do customer service and a bit of this, a bit of that. So then eventually, once I hire more people, she knows exactly how all the aspects work, and she can help, you know, where problems may lie.
Where did you hire her from, or how did you find her?
Upwork.
Upwork. Cool. Yeah, Upwork's great.
Yeah.
Upwork. Uh, what's the other one? Online Jobs PH are both very good for this stuff. So obviously, lots of progress on this store. It sounds like you kind of know what you need to do to get to the next level. What are your? I guess we'll divide this into two questions. What are your goals for the store? So do you want to grow it kind of as big as you can? Do you want to have a collection of a few different stores? What's your vision for the e-commerce side of things? Where do you see yourself taking this?
Uh, I want to definitely grow this store a lot more because I feel like there's a lot of potential in this niche, and I feel like there's a lot more for us to do. We're only doing shopping ads still, so we haven't done any of the search text ads or anything else, and we only have 4 brands. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I want to grow this a lot more, and I also want to do another store that where I can sell products that I'm really into that kind of niche, like really, really into. I think this first store, I think all the products are really cool, but it's not something I do on my daily life, or it's not
yeah.
something I, you know, use all the time. So I think my second store, uh, I want to make a second store, and I think I want to lean into stuff that I use, maybe every day or often.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. In the second side of this question is, what is your main motivator? Is it financial? Do you want to have kind of true financial freedom to be able to live completely on your own terms? Do you just want to have a remote business that you can travel the world? Do you just want to work on your own terms? Like, what are your biggest drivers that are pushing you to do this?
I think it's the freedom of it.
Hmm.
Like with the gaming, we had to play all the time. We'd have days off on Fridays and Saturdays, but we you still want to play in those hours. We'd travel every 2 weeks. We're always on the road. I think just the freedom of being able to manage and do this anywhere, and yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things. And as well as financial, I think that it's one of the best things you can do in terms of uh, making a lot of money, really. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So you're in Australia now. Do you, with the remote aspect of this, Australia is obviously beautiful. Do you see yourself staying there, or do you want to potentially live in other places in the world in the future, or at least travel?
I want to live in. I have three things on my goals board actually. Move out to Thailand or Gold Coast or Dubai. So
There you go.
one of
Good
them
stuff, man.
three. Um, yeah. So those one of them three.
I've been to. I wasn't when I was in Thailand. I wasn't running my e-commerce business, but I spent quite a bit of time there, and it's. I think like if I was back in your shoes, Like when I got started, I was in law school in debt in Canada, freezing my ass off, not happy. But I think like if I could go back in time to myself when I just got started, I would say like go live in Thailand or Bali or something like this where you have virtually no costs. You can run your business exactly as you could at home with like 1/10 of the living expenses, and it's beautiful weather, it's sunny, you have a beach. It's just a much better environment to take those first business steps in my opinion.
100%. I totally agree with that.
Cool, man. Last couple questions. So, with the program so far, where do you think the biggest differentiators have been for you? So, has it been help with ads, help selecting your niche, just the overall community and having people to bounce questions off of? Like, what's been the most valuable part to you?
I think having that one-on-one person, I had Joel pretty much help me with a lot of things. I think also just the way the modules are organized, it's just a step-by-step process with checklists as well. And I think it's super important. It kind of takes your mind off the creative side, and just you're kind of a bit of a robot in the beginning
Yeah.
until you hit some problems. But I think it's good to just learn and be a robot at the same time. So so it's very easy, um, and I think that's super important for anyone really. So I think those two things have been the main differentiator.
I agree. It's almost like when you're getting started, a lot of people like what they'll do is they'll join a program and they'll like not even set up their business, but they'll be watching the Google Ads module or like how to run email marketing, and then they get overwhelmed and then they just don't do anything. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how we've designed it on purpose. So it's like when you come in, just do this. And then once that's done, tell us, and then okay, now just do this. So it's just like really kind of like trying to make what you have to focus on as little as possible so you can just do that and move step by step. But I think you're right, the opposite side of that is eventually down the line once you have everything set up and it's running, you do want to be more creative. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is I can show people like yourself what's worked for me, but that's not the only way that it's going to work. There might be things that you come across that you do differently that work great for you. It was the same thing with me. Like I'm always kind of testing, trying new things that just feel right in my intuition. And I think you have to do that. You don't want to be a robot forever. You want to be a robot at least till you're live, but then you want to learn to trust your gut, to try new things. And that's how you really come across unique insights, especially because every niche is different. What worked in
yeah,
my niche for one thing might not be the case in yours. Like everyone's a little bit different.
a 100% agree. And to touch on that as well, I feel like my sort of niche, for example, requires a lot of more calls or talking to people. I won't be getting as many just natural sales through ads because these products are a lot more technical. So I think you're definitely 100% spot on with that.
Cool. And lastly, if you could go back and give yourself advice before you got started at all, it can be in relation to the program. It could just be about the business model. What advice would you give yourself? You can go back to Jordan, let's say, right before you decided to join. About the business model of the program, what advice would you give yourself?
Um, Honestly, I don't know if I would give any advice because I kind of like knowing and learning as I go through it all. I think maybe don't get too. I mean, sometimes I would get a bit worked up when there would be things that happen outside of your control,
Yeah.
um, and that would. I mean, I've come to learn to realize that just relax, you can't really do anything about it. But maybe you know, maybe setting expectations there. But I think overall, there isn't too much to really give myself advice on. I feel like, uh, yeah, I think just keep learning as you go and, um, stay strong, really.
Awesome. Well, great stuff, man. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and congratulations on the awesome results so far. And looking forward to seeing where you are in 6 months from now by the end of the year.
Thanks for having me, Brooke. I appreciate it.